In this video, we're gonna be working on this rare Dodge Ram 1500 SST pickup truck. So if you guys have been following along with the build, this thing was abandoned. It was in a field, in a barn. It was kind of a little bit of everywhere, but we have been going through this thing, cleaning it, getting it ready. We have already fabbed up the engine mounts for the Gen 3 HEMI engine, which is sitting over there removed at the moment. And we've cleaned up the entire frame, getting this thing ready to start putting the new components on, getting that Gen 3 HEMI back into here to replace the 5.9 Magnum that was originally in here, and she's looking awesome. So last episode, we wrapped up by getting all of the old wiring and junk out of the engine bay, because we're gonna clean this thing up, because once we get the engine in, we don't wanna have to take it all back out again. So we're gonna do that. At some point, we're probably gonna be painting this thing, but that can all be done later. But we wanna get the necessary stuff out so that we don't have to remove everything and do everything twice. So where we're at right now, I'm gonna finish just tidying this stuff up. I have 4 dollies. I'm gonna try to put the cab on, get it off the lift, and then I'm gonna try to roll it out so that we can clean it. I gotta wash it again. You guys also saw in the last episode, we found all of this, squirrel nonsense up in here, or chipmunk or whatever, but something has been living in here at some point. I wanna clean all that out. We'll wash this whole thing, and then we can scrub it, primer any of the areas that we need to primer, and then hopefully get this thing painted. So that's my goal for this episode, is to get the engine bay all painted. That way we are ready for next week to finally get this thing underway and get to the fun stuff of getting the engine in there and all that. So let's get this thing out. Let's try the dollies out and see if it works. Okay, so I got my 4 Harbor Freight dollies out. They're supposed to be good for 1,000 pounds each, so we'll see how that works out. And then I took out the old throttle cable through the Firewall, or I don't think we're gonna be using this actually. Actually, I know we're not gonna be using that, because we're gonna be going to electric throttle pedal. And I took out the 4 15 mil head nuts that hold this here, and then I also disconnected the brake pedal, so this should wiggle free if I can do it with one hand, and it looks like I might be able to. And there she is. So out comes the brake booster. We can clean this thing up. It's in good shape, or at least it looks like it's in good shape, but we'll snazzy it up, and then we're pretty much good. I'm also gonna let's take out the windshield wiper arm assembly as well. Here we go with this. 1 bolt. Should just be 2. Actually, there's 2 more in here. It's gonna make it a lot easier to clean out of here with this out of the way. So there's all the hardware, and we just gotta, I don't even want to touch this stuff, it's nasty. I'm gonna unplug this somewhere in there, but let's set her free. All right, so we got our plug disconnected, and that is just, we're gonna have to shop back this all out here. So this is free as well. And all this stuff will give a nice little rinse and clean up, as well as everything else we're doing here. Okay guys, well, I thought I was gonna have a easy solution, but turns out it's gonna not be as easy as I thought, because these dollies that are rated literally for 1,000 pounds. I don't know if it shows it on here, but I think it's the other sticker. It does say 1,000 pounds, but I don't know if you can see. It's literally just collapsing on itself. I tried putting it in the center of it, and I heard the wood start to snap, so I tried laying it corner to corner so it has the wheels to actually support it, so it's right on top of the metal plate for each wheel. And this one, I don't know if you can tell, it's like literally just collapsing. So don't want this thing to come crashing down. I know it's not in the, it needs to be painted and whatnot, but I don't need to be bending cab corners and stuff. So gonna have to get some different wheels so that I can wheel this thing around easily, and then we can get back to it. All right guys, change of plans. Definitely not ideal, but I just threw it back on those dollies. I figured if I was gonna return them, I might as well get some use out of them. But yeah, they're struggling. I don't know if you guys can see, but like that one is like 3-wheeling right now like crazy. I might have to reposition that one, but if I can at least use them to get it out here for now, and then bring them back, then that's the goal. Like I said, they're supposed to be rated for 1,000 pounds, but I don't know if they're supposed to have like, you're supposed to reinforce it with plywood before you can put 1,000 pounds on it. It's kind of silly, but let me get this out, or at least to there, and then I can shop vac it, and then we'll wash it all down. All right, so I managed to get it outside. Street bike. Zang! And there was so much junk up in here, you guys. Like that whole, I don't know if you guys can see it, but right there is where it goes into the fan motor there. And that whole like pocket down there was just full of so much stuff. Like, look at all the, whatever you want to call that. I just took all out of there. So use a little mighty shop vac. Got it out of there, and I was using the shop vac to get down there and like suction it out. So now let me wash this up and we'll see how clean she comes out. Well, if you guys aren't already, go follow us on Instagram because you would have already seen this progress. I post all the sneak previews on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the short format platforms. So check this out, you guys. I kind of did like, you know, when they do the half and half, when they do the detailing stuff. So I've done this half and I haven't done that half, as you can probably tell, but making a huge difference. The funny thing is I'm just using super clean, and where you kind of see like this going on over here, that is essentially like the paint coming right off. So the paint is like barely even on here. Just with degreaser, you can see it's just rubbing right off the white paint, which is essentially what happened on the outside. So these vehicles of this era were notorious for the paint just essentially falling off, and you can see it on the Firewall there. As soon as I pretty much touch it, like look at it on the ground there, it's just white dripping everywhere. So super happy with how she's coming out so far. In here, same thing, it's all coming out clean. I'm gonna take out this box. We're not gonna need it for our purposes with the HEMI, so I'll remove this, clean all this up as well, and you can see that's how it looks. It's how this side looked a minute ago. And just once I get the degreaser going through here, give it a little scrub with the pressure washer, then it comes out frosty white like that. So much better. Like, that is just insane, the comparison. Comment down below, what do you guys think? Huge difference, worth the effort? Let me know down below. Okay, so we got the whole thing clean, you guys, as clean as she's gonna get for now. Super happy with how it came out now. I think everybody can agree, but as always, let me know down below. Also cleaned off the hood too. It's a little bit alarming, the fact and how easy that paint is kind of coming off. Like, you can see just the white residue from it washing off. Really, it's consistent throughout the vehicle. That's why all the paint is lifting off everywhere. And yeah, it's gonna be one of those things. So I'm wondering how much of this we're gonna have to paint. I do believe, I think Aaron at one point said that pretty much you'd have to strip this thing right down, because all these 90s vehicles, specifically the white ones, the paint just lifts right off. So I think if we're gonna have any chance on the paint sticking to the actual body on this thing, we're gonna have to strip it right down eventually. But hopefully what we do in here in the engine bay sticks. Like I said, we're gonna prep this all up, but for now let's push it back in. I'm gonna let it dry, and then we can start getting to the prep on this. Check this out, you guys. Just for science, I had to see what was going on inside this tank, and this is pretty much will tell a tale of how the rest of the truck was built. Whoever did this clearly didn't really know what they were doing. Look at that. Look at that fuel pickup. It's like pointed upwards, so you would have to have well over half a tank of fuel, or 3/4 of a tank, for that thing to, it looks like a, it's like a cheese grater. It is like the worst idea ever. So it is literally going upwards in the tank. Not good. So anyways, that's our old tank, the one that we are replacing, and a new one we're gonna go with a drop-in from Holly. All right, guys, she's looking pretty fresh. What I did end up doing is, on this particular vehicle, like I said, haven't spent a ton of time around second gens, but it is really easy to disconnect the wire harness from the inside of the cab. I wasn't sure if it was gonna be a nice disconnect, but it was literally just this one main one
This has like this little jumper harness here, so I didn't have to disconnect that. And then this one wasn't even connected to anything inside. I'm not sure why. I don't know what this one's for actually, but who knows? This one wasn't plugged in. Maybe it's supposed to be, but yeah, once you do that, this whole thing just slides out of the firewall, and now we're left with something that we can deal with. So next up, we can go ahead and start getting this thing ready for paint, but that's pretty much it for a day's work, not for this video, but I'm gonna keep going on this, trying to debate, you know, what I wanna do as far as some of, you know, the extra holes that we don't need. Like there's a lot of factory holes, but I guess it doesn't matter too much. Should be, yeah, I think we'll probably just end up painting it the way it is, because there's not really any additional holes. I might clean up a couple things, but nothing too crazy, and then we can get to painting.
Okay guys, so it's definitely some days later. It's now the following week, because over the weekend I spent a bunch of time, if you guys haven't seen my other video, getting the shop reconfigured and looking better than ever. So still have a lot of organizing to do. These cabinets are still empty, but if you guys haven't seen this full video, go check that out so you can see what we did to get all this in here and get reorganized. Another thing that I did do, if you guys have been following along for a while, you'll know that this welder has been a beast on the channel. We built the Hellcoda with it, we built the Hellcat swap ram with it, and we built all sorts of stuff with this little welder. But what ended up happening is the connection that goes from here to the actual cable, the clamp came off, and I had crimped it before, and it never really worked that good ever since, and even probably prior to it actually failing. But as you can see here, I went ahead and ordered a brand new cable. So this welder uses all Lincoln components. So I ordered not an actual Lincoln one, but an Amazon Lincoln cable. And this thing works so good, you guys, at least for now. Like, I don't know why I didn't replace that sooner, but right now I'm just filling a few small holes that a previous owner had made. So I'm filling the holes, and then once we end up doing the interior part, I can always clean up the other side and, you know, seal it off from the other side. But for now, we're gonna clean it off here. I'm gonna weld the holes. I still got a couple more here that I want to touch up. We'll weld them solid, and then we can go ahead and prep this thing for paint. Okay, well, you guys already probably know me by now, so I got kind of carried away with a bunch of little extra holes that really didn't matter, but I knew they weren't factory. So even though there's all factory holes here, there was a bunch that looked like they had been drilled out and kind of had like metal sprayed out the back of them. So figured since I'm here and since my welder's working good, I'll just clean up any additional ones that don't look factory. Like for example, this one. You can tell that's not a factory one because out the back side it's blown out the back there. So I'll probably end up closing this one up, and then I'm gonna go ahead and grind all these, and then once I grind them all smooth, then if they need a little bit of putty, throw some putty on them. Then we can scrubby this whole thing down with a Scotch-Brite pad. Any of the bare metal spots, we'll primer them, and then the rest we can get on to spraying this thing white. Okay, there we go, guys. I got all the holes welded, patched up, sanded smooth, and then I put some putty on them, and now I'm gonna sand them up, and then I'm gonna throw some primer on top of those, and then we're almost ready for some paint in the bay. Okay guys, so I've been doing a bunch of stuff behind the scenes, kind of boring stuff, but ended up, we got everything primered, everything is sanded down. I hit like any of the major spots that were scratched where you could physically feel the roughness. That I hit with some, I think 220 or 240, can't remember what was on the pad there, but one of the two there. And just so you couldn't feel it anymore, so like areas like this, there were some scratches in the white coat, so the final coat, and then just went everywhere else with Scotch-Brite pad. So the whole thing is Scotch-Brite padded. So now I'm gonna bring it out, we're gonna blow it down, wipe it down, and then any of the stuff that I don't want to be white, we're gonna tape off. I don't have to do too crazy of a tape job. for a few reasons, but I will tape stuff off. Like the exterior of the body is demolished and gonna get painted. This windshield has a huge crack in it, so that's gonna get replaced. Like really, as far as white overspray, not really worried about a whole lot, but let's get it out, cleaned up, taped off, and then we'll get to painting. Okay, so we've got the cab out here, and I kind of just hung it off over here. I'm gonna end up tarping all this area down. So I've got it all blown off, so I blew off all of the dust from using the Scotch-Brite pad, and I was just using one of these like burgundy Scotch-Brite pads on the whole thing, so I scuffed up the whole entire thing. Then I use, it doesn't have to be any specific brand, but wax and grease remover or wax and tar remover, wiped the whole thing down with that. So she's all degreased, she's all ready to go. Last step right now is I am going to tape up all the stuff that I don't want to get painted, and I'm going to get some tarp going, wrap everything up, drop sheets, all that good stuff. So any of the stuff, like all these little screws, the AC, do a little bit better job around the heater core stuff. There's our little antenna wire going there. Kind of finish up some of these holes that go through the firewall and our steering column, get that all cleaned up so that I have nice clean tape lines, and just a bunch of random things. And like I said, I'm gonna probably remove these two dollies, and I'm gonna drop like a big drop sheet all down there, just so any overspray that goes that way doesn't end up on the concrete. And then I've got all this extra cardboard from when we did our cabinet, so I'll just get everything all prepped and ready to go, and then we can spray this sucker. Okay, well, here we go, guys. So we have PW7 right here. We've got the base coat, I've got a reducer, I've got my Harbor Freight gun. We are doing this budget style, boys. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up, and then we'll get to spraying. We'll see how she looks. Okay guys, so I will always keep it 100 with you guys on the channel. So that was my first time really using that gun by myself. When I first started using it, I kind of like, I guess a couple things. One thing is it was wide open, and so I got a little bit carried away with trying to coat everything. So we did get a few runs. I don't know if you guys will be able to see that right there. Right there. So I'll have to sand those out once this dries. No big deal, just a few of them on this one fender. So I'll sand those out, but again, not a big deal. And then over here you can see I was like dialing the gun back, because I was like, all right, maybe like somebody that's professional can run a full trigger, but with me just getting used to things and getting used to like moving my hand around, I dialed it back so it was like very, very slow in coming out. And then I started going and doing all this. So this was coming out pretty good. Like I said, I was going pretty slow, but at the same time too, I didn't want to have any more runs, so I was being, going kind of slow and going over here and then kind of coming back over to this side after it tacked up a little bit. So starting to get pretty good coverage. I did run out of paint. I wasn't sure how much I was going to go through, so I only mixed a tiny little batch. So I'm going to go and mix up a little bit more, and then I can carry through here, and then we'll get a solid coat on all this. Like I said, then I'm going to have to probably sand this. I don't know how much more daylight I'm going to have today, because we're like probably almost 6 o'clock. So, but either way, we'll get this done. I was debating this. This is factory painted black, but I think I'm gonna dress it up. I think it'll look better just all white, so I'll probably hit that as well, or try to, and we'll see how far we get here. All right, so we mixed up our paint again. I mixed up a tiny little bit more. The other thing too is it's probably not helping matters that this is, or is it slow reducer, so it takes a little bit more time, and it's not like crazy hot out today either. And then I went over here and so I checked it, and I was actually able to sand out those small little spots. So I already sanded it, blew off that area, wiped it all back down, and so I just got rid of the little tiny runs. There was only a few of them, one here. So like I said, because it's a slow reducer, and it might have been partially why when I came in hot it was still super runny. That combined with the gun was flowing a ton for at least my skill level. So now I'm going to come in, I'm going to kind of hit these spots so that I can kind of get a nice tack on these, then come back around, keep touching it up. We'll see how far we get. All right guys, well, so far a successful day. Like I said, a lot of learning going on at the same time, but it's coming out really good. I'm kind of losing light right now, like especially under there, so I want to wait till I have full daylight so I can see a little bit better, but everything's turning out really good. I think I'm gonna have to do probably at least one more coat. That gun, as you can probably see all over the place, it started dripping. It's like a $10 gun, you guys, so it was dripping all over the place, so I really had to watch where I was positioning it. I couldn't like extend over top because I was worried about having a drip come down on stuff that I had already finished. You can kind of see it did it over here when I was going like this. It landed some drops on there. So we're gonna resume in the morning, and then I'll get another base coat on this, and then I'm hoping I can move to clear tomorrow, and this thing should look pretty good. It already looks way better than it ever has, but we're gonna get this dialed. Okay guys, next day. So like I said, I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. This is not the most fun job for me, at least, but overall looks pretty decent. But like I mentioned last night, it's gonna need a lot of touch-ups since I am a noob, and it was getting a little bit difficult to see. Other thing too is, I mentioned to you guys I was gonna maybe reshoot this, and I'm kind of wasn't exactly that happy with how it was turning out because the under surface was very rough. So whatever this black coating is from factory, you can see here it's got this weird texture. Same here and through here. So I'm gonna go ahead and re-sand this. Same thing on this side, and then maybe a little bit through here. So I'm gonna sand this. That way this will come out nice and smooth and bright white. And then once I finish sanding all this, everything through here is coming out pretty good, but there's a few key spots, just small things. I don't know if you guys can see that, like right there it's a little bit dark, right there it's a little bit dark, so a bunch of just little tiny spots right here, ones that you can see better in the light. Through here you can still see some of the primer, so we'll do probably one more on all the specific areas and then just one more coat. So I think that will probably be key, so probably 2 more coats on this, and then it'll be done with the white, I'm hoping, and then we can go to clear. Alright, so a lot better results, but I did go and pick up a new gun, and I finally figured out where this stupid one is leaking from. So it's leaking from right there out of the back of the pin, and it's just dripping everywhere, so it made a bunch more drips. So definitely want to invest in some better products, you guys, otherwise you'll be making yourself crazy like me. $10 gun, I know I'm going to use another $10 gun, but at least one that doesn't hopefully leak from the pin in the back, so it's not dripping all over my work. But it's coming out way better. But I did run out of paint. I didn't mix a whole lot, but I gotta mix up another batch with the new gun, and then I should be onto the final coat. But I do have to sand out some drips, unfortunately. All right, way better results, you guys, but still dripping from the new gun, same spot. Okay, so this is my last coat of base. She's looking real good, you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up some clear, and then we'll throw it on. But switching the gun made a huge difference. So that gun was still dripping, but it at least started getting good coverage and wasn't giving me all sorts of headache. It was much easier to control. And as you can see, come out with some pretty decent results for some Harbor Freight junk. But I think after playing with this and kind of just realizing, like, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to get into this whole thing like more than once, but you really do need better tools. Like if I had had a decent gun from the get-go, this would have been a world of a difference easier. But it is what it is, learning curve, live and learn. So I'm gonna go ahead, mix up some clear, and then we can start clear coating all this and make it look fresh. Okay, so just before I wrap up and show you guys results, let me show you guys the stuff that I ended up using, and I'll go from there. So I installed a little dryer on my little compressor. Again, next time I do this, I'm gonna get better stuff. This just goes to show you that you can get it done on a budget with what you're working with and what you got, which in this case wasn't much. Here's all my mess of paint mixing stuff. So I ended up having 2 of those purple guns. Both of them were not great. I would recommend getting a better gun, but as you can see, I did get it done, but they were both leaking the whole time, which wasn't that fun. Ended up having the PW7 paint. I got it done with 16 ounces. This is like almost out, but 16 ounces of this seemed to get the job done. And then as far as clear, I ended up using this clear here. So there you go. Classic. And then this was a 4-to-1 mixing ratio, so with the activator. So mix that up, and I didn't need a ton of clear, but again, it is just the engine bay. If you're doing the full vehicle, you probably would go a little crazier, and you can see I got a bunch of Scotch-Brite pads and stuff. So we'll probably end up painting the actual vehicle at some point in the near future. I don't know when that will be. Might make it easier to do it while the whole thing is apart, but I really want to get cracking on the mechanical stuff, since that's more my specialty than paint stuff, as you can probably tell. So I've got an entire mess to clean up, and I still have my bench all full of stuff, but I want to get this video out for you guys. So let me show you guys the results. Still has to dry and stuff like that, so it's only been chilling for like an hour or so, but let me at least show you. So here we go. The outside is ugly as ever, but check out our results, boys. So I didn't go crazy with the prep through the headlight pockets, but I at least wanted it to look nice and white, because it had that factory black on there, which to me didn't look right. So here's all through here. You can see she's nice and shiny. This is better than it has ever looked from the factory. Again, I am learning, so, you know, could I maybe do it better the second time around? Sure, but this is phenomenal for an engine bay. And like I said, this is way better than the factory. Factory doesn't even have gloss usually in here. It's just flat white, but I did my best, and I think I exceeded my expectations for using just basic cheap tools and getting the job done. But super happy with the outcome. I'm gonna let this dry. When I get a little bit light in the morning, I might see if there's any spots I want to make a couple minor final touch-ups. Also, my buddy Brett, he knows more about paint, so he might have a couple areas that he might want to touch up and pick out, and we'll correct it if necessary. But this looks phenomenal, you guys. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment, give me a thumbs up in the chat if you guys are liking this series. Give the video a thumbs up. Let me know in a comment down below how excited you guys are on this build, because we are going to get to the HEMI swapping next. So most of the cleanup stuff is done. Like I said, I'm not sure if we're going to end up doing the body just yet, or we'll do it after we get it running. Either way, this thing is getting fixed up. She's going to be dialed, and I'm excited. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next video.